yeah, so I talked about it a few weeks ago, and really, I mean, I don't have a lot to add on it, but there were a few things, and because, we're not doing a lot of long discussion portions this episode anyway, I figured we could talk about it. And I also wanted to talk about it just because, the most important development is the movie's actually out now. Like I talked about before, that it was just a trailer, and the movie had barely even been announced by that point. So I figured, I would talk about it at least one other time once it was actually out. And, I'll say that, I mean, more facetiously I was saying it, but I said that, maybe the trailer just looks bad. Maybe it's been oversold as being too bad. And, when you actually watch it, it'll be pretty good. But maybe to no one's surprise, but that's not exactly the case. The movie currently has a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 7% for the audience score. And now, granted, there's only 7 critic reviews, so it's not like a wide-ranging opinion, but, it's worth pointing out that people aren't happy. And there was a lot more from an audience react, which I think is how it is on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't really use the website. Honestly, I mostly just brought that up because I've just seen that as the metric posted everywhere to, like, prove that it's bad. But, yeah, I thought I would mention that it's true. People are not happy with this movie. And I think I mentioned this the first time, but I'll just restate it again here. I feel like some people may be overreacting a bit when talking about this movie, just in terms of that, I mean, it's just a cartoon, so who really cares? But at the same time, I mean, I never really doubted that it would, suck, which it looks like it does. So, yeah, I mean, I guess I might as well say that, people weren't wrong, I guess the whole lesson here is, judge things preemptively all the time. But, I think also another thing I wanted to say about it is that, I think I said this the first time also, people kind of were hyped for it because they loved the first movie. I mean, it's good and all, but, it's still, again, like a cartoon movie. It's obvious that a direct-to-video sequel, if that's what you want to call it, was not going to be amazing or anything like that. But anyway, I wanted to say about it that recently the director, Eric Fogel, and then the writers, Alan Schoolcraft and Brent Simons, and I'm not pointing them out to like insult them, I'm just saying because this is relevant to the conversation, did an interview with Screen Rant on the subject. And before I go any further, I just want to say the number one thing I feel when seeing that is just, sympathy for these people. Because, I mean, it must suck ass to have to live with all this being thrown at you. And then, do an interview explaining yourself like, like you're on trial or something. I mean, because, that's kind of the way they're going to look at it. But, at the same time, you kind of know when you're going to step into this, making this direct-to-video sequel with a budget of $2, that this is how people are going to react. So, you've made your bed, and I guess now it's time to sleep in it. But anyway, it seemed from the interview that I guess one of the biggest things that they focused on is why the voice cast was different. And to be honest, I feel like that was one of the least important things to address because, like, we all know why they didn't get them back. I mean, look at the animation. Like, do you seriously think... I mean, it could either be one of two ways. Either they saw the animation, knew how bad it was going to be, or that if they didn't even have the budget to do the animation well, why would the actors come back? So, I'm not really surprised. I know a lot of people, it seemed the biggest complaint I saw besides the animation was people complaining the voice actors were different. I was kind of surprised by that because you kind of expect with a sequel like this, every time there's one of these direct-to-DVD sequels, they're not going to get the old cast back unless they're not doing anything anymore. And most of the people in that movie are doing stuff still. So, of course, they weren't going to get them back. So, I don't really get why people freaked out about that. But, I feel like it's kind of obvious. I feel like I said, this is just from the trailer. I mean, some of the voice acting choices were like, they sounded nothing like the old characters, I feel like. But at the same time, you should just you should just expect that. I don't really think it was necessary to spend the better part of the interview addressing that point. But, yeah, anyways, that according to Screen Rant, Schoolcraft and Simon said they weren't aware of all the internal discussions regarding casting. And, I mean, to be honest, I'm not really surprised because, it's not their decision for the movie to have had the budget it was made with. It was the studio that probably, forked over the budget. And they probably were the ones who decided whether or not they could even get those guys back. But, I'm not surprised that they can't really explain extensively why it wasn't even really an option to get them back, or at least that's how they're implying it is. But, apparently the guy they got to replace Will Ferrell is this guy, Keith Ferguson is his name, who voiced Megamind in the video games. And how they phrased it in the interview when talking about it is, quote, Will Ferrell's only done the voice for, 85 minutes, whereas Keith has done it for 10 hours. And I think it was decided early on to find fresh talent. So, I mean, there's a few parts to that, but I don't know about you, but that sounds like a lot of coping to me. I mean, again, I guess I can't blame them since there's probably nothing else they could have done at this point. But I don't think those reasons are going to win over a lot of people. But when you kind of break it down there, I mean, yeah, they do have kind of a point when it's like I think they go on to mention that this Keith Ferguson guy like voiced him in a lot of stuff like commercials and shorts or whatever. Maybe I'm wrong with some of that, but technically, when you want to break it down, he's like voiced the character for longer, so it shouldn't matter that he's playing him in this movie. And I mean, I understand that, but the original product, the one that most people like identify with, had Will Ferrell play him. So it's not really surprised people were either expecting him back. Well, I'm a bit surprised people were expecting him back considering the quality of the product, but I'm not really. I don't think it should be surprising to them that people wanted him back. And then also, it's no offense to the Keith Ferguson guy. I mean, he's doing his best, but it does sound different. I mean, he's like a professional voice actor, so I guess he does okay. But there is a difference, obviously. And then also the saying, I think it was decided early on to find fresh talent. I don't know if they mean like that's how they just want to phrase they couldn't get anyone back, or they're trying to kind of frame it as like they wanted to get different actors to play the characters. I don't really know for sure, but whichever way it is, I can believe the first one a lot more. I don't really think, I feel like if they had the budget, they would have 100% gotten back the old actors if they could. I mean, again, I can't speak for what the studio would have done, but I feel like that would have been one of the first things they would have wanted to do. But anyway, I mean, I feel like most people who are complaining about the voice don't really care who played Megamind longer, like I said. I mean, they just kind of care if he sounds like Will Ferrell, since that's what they're used to. And you can't really be surprised by that. But kind of on a closing note of this segment, though, because I mostly just want to discuss the interview there and how, I mean, I guess it just kind of sucks that to have to go out and explain yourself during this. I mean, it's almost like, if they made a movie of one of the directors taking a dump in a toilet for 10 hours and then they have to go out and explain themselves as to why they did it. I feel kind of bad for them. So that was the main thing I wanted to talk about. But I hope, even though, okay, I'm taking a dump all over the movie myself here, but overall my main expression to them is just sympathy in terms of like, I mean, even though the movie's probably bad, they did their best with what they were given. You can't really blame them too hard, But the thing I wanted to mention is that apparently they renamed the character Minion from the first movie, who was like some robot fish creature, like some robot gorilla thing with a fish bowl on his head with a fish inside or something like that. He was like the sidekick, basically. He was basically renamed to Old Chum, which I'm not saying for sure, but from what I understand, I think that's just because of the Minions in Despicable Me. They don't want to take the name of something that's more recognizable than, even though the movies came out around the same time. And that's something I heard people point out before that, both of them had minions in them. But, I gotta say, Megamind seems to be Despicable Me's bitch. I mean, they stole Will Ferrell, and now they stole the name of a main character. I mean, what are they going to steal next? I mean, are they going to steal the budget for the film? I mean, I guess, like, the Despicable Me movies can't really do a lot with $5. The budget is a lot higher than that. I don't think that would help them that much when making the movie. But, in all due respect, I mean, it's gotta suck to keep getting your stuff stolen from you all the time, and the fact that Despicable Me, made like $100 billion the first one, and they keep making money every time they release a new one in the Minions movies because people eat that stuff like pigs eat slop, they just want it shoveled into their mouths. And Megamind gets one movie and then 14 years later another one that is just rock bottom, I guess, to these people. So I feel kind of bad for them. They're just kind of limping along, but I don't know, they gave it their best shot, I guess. And I mean, all in all, I mean, I legitimately, despite the fact that it seems like I'm making fun of them, I respect the creative team for trying to justify this whole thing and explain why the movie is awesome and why you should see it and all that. Unfortunately, it seems like the internet made its decision and Despicable Me is just, I mean, Megamind 2 is just not happening. People are over it. I will say if they make a Megamind 3 and happen to get Will Ferrell back, maybe that could win people over, although I think it might be a little bit too late. If they ever make a Megamind 3, I think it's going to be done with that stick figure animate software from like 2009, if you remember that.